Episode 10 of LAOFCS Weekly is here. We have Cherry Picks Miranda Bailey in studio to talk with us, and it's Hate You Give versus A Star Is Born at the box office. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Welcome to episode 10 of LAOFCS Weekly. I am Scott Menzel. We are very excited. We made it to episode 10, the big 1-0 here. And to celebrate, we have a very special guest, a talented lady, if I do say so myself. Not only is she a director, a producer, a writer, but she is also the CEO of Cherry Picks, which will be releasing at the end of this month. Miranda Bailey is in the house.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And we will be doing a quick rundown of the show. As always, we're going to start off with the movie pick of the week, and then we're going to switch over to our interview with Miranda, and then we're going to finish it up by doing the Indie Spotlight as well as our Retro Rewind. So we're going to jump right into the movie pick of the week. This was a very interesting week for me because the movie choice that we voted on in our Facebook group was, I thought it was going to be a little bit tighter than it was. Star Is Born and The Hate You Give, I realized we're both going to get a lot of love. But Hate You Give really, it edged up there and is the winner. So congratulations to Hate You Give. This is a film that I saw at the Toronto International Film Festival, probably my favorite film that I saw at the festival. And I was blown away by this film. Has everyone at the panel seen this movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, real quick, who is everyone at your panel, Scott?
Oh,
Yes,
thank you
yes.
very much.
I was gonna say
No, you should have, because I'm like so used to doing this flow. All right, before we get into this movie, because I suck, we are going to do introductions. So we're going to go around the table, starting with Staci, and introduce yourself. Where can they find you and all that good stuff?
All right. I am Staci Layne-Wilson, and I'm with At Home in Hollywood, and that's about it.
And your Twitter?
You can find me anywhere, just about, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
Nice. My name is Morgan Rojas, and I am the founder and CEO of Cinemacy. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Cinemacy.
And I'm Kit Bowen. I am editor of Screen Picks, editor and film critic for Screen Picks, small site that I run, and you can find me at The Movie Kit.
Very good. Very good. Sorry for that. I didn't do the introduction. Sorry. I was so excited that Miranda was here that I gave her a great introduction and I forgot everybody else. Sorry, ladies. Okay, going real quick back to The Hate You Give, since everyone has seen it, just kind of, if we can go around the table and just share your quick opinion on it.
Mm-hmm. It's a very topical movie based on a young adult novel that won several awards, and it is about a young lady who sort of has to straddle two different worlds in her black neighborhood and her privileged white school. And I don't usually, watch young adult or kids movies that often, but this one really gripped me, and I thought it was really well acted and beautifully directed, and as I said, very topical and interesting, and it shows a lot of different points of view, which I thought was an excellent way to present the story.
Morgan, how about you?
It was hard to watch. It was about 2 hours long, and every scene just felt like it built on this emotional turmoil. And sitting there in the theater, at the end, I left and just felt like, oh gosh, I just went through something as a viewer that I can only imagine in real life, that the people that go through this every single day, the film did a really good job of portraying what someone in Star's position has to deal with daily. And fantastically acted. I think Amanda is a great protagonist. She cries in almost every single scene, and I can just imagine being an actor and having to go through that. Just, how tough that must be.
Yeah, I mean, it touches upon, of course, like we said, very relevant issue in our country, which is police, well, I wouldn't say brutality, but just the police and the African American community and the conflicts that happen there. I was so impressed with this. I think, can you bring up the cast list? Because
Sure.
I remember the actor who plays the father.
Russell Hornsby?
Yes.
Oh,
he was
amazing.
And there's this scene where it's up towards the beginning of the movie, where he's explaining to his children how to behave when they're pulled over by a cop, or how to behave when they are in a situation where they have to, deal with an authority figure. And it just blew me away. I mean, it's like, it's something that I would have no experience having, or not knowing that kind of a pressure that you'd be under just by the color of your skin. It was pretty powerful. And I saw it with my 19-year-old daughter, and she walked out of that saying, I'm going to make a difference. She goes, this made me want to make a difference. I'm going to make films. She wants to make films. I want to make films that make a difference. Because she said, this is just, too strong of a story, and too, just the whole idea of being empowered by something. I was pretty proud of her, actually. She was very moved by this, as was I.
I love this movie for a lot of reasons, but kind of the point that you mentioned, this movie, in my opinion, has the power to ignite social change and social movement. Things that I mention a lot on the other show that I do with Carla, Black Tomatoes. A lot of people don't realize this about me, but I come from a mixed family. I have 5 adopted brothers, and 4 of which are black. And growing up, I seen a lot of what is shown in this movie front and center. This was in a lot of ways, I was reliving stuff where I've seen some of my brothers turn to selling drugs because they have no other choice, because that's kind of the cards they were dealt living in the neighborhood that we grew up in. I see them when they go into stores and how people look at them differently. And to see this movie showcase this young girl and show her living 2 different lives of having to, be one way in her black community and then another way in this rich white school.
Where her mother wants her to get this
because she wants a
education.
better education. She doesn't want her to follow in the footsteps of her father, and she wants her to have a better life. And it's very commendable what she's saying. And then when you go into the whole violence in the black community and the drug trade and these neighborhoods, it's just, for a movie that's for a young adult audience, this movie has big things to say. And this is something that I think, no matter if you're 8 years old or if you're 7 years old, there's messages in this movie that you need to take away from it.
Right.
And it's
in
very
that
powerful.
way, it kind of reminded me of the children's and teenagers movies of the 70s, which were so much more raw and brutal and honest. And I think that it's a good kind of throwback also to that era where, it's not whitewashed, so to speak, and glossed over.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to see, Anthony Mackie has made his career now, being in Marvel movies and stuff like that. It's nice to see him so out of character. And he was really great. Regina Hall has always been great, but I'm so glad she's getting more and more work. But I think the 2 real stars is Amandla, who you mentioned, and Russell Hornsby. Both of these, I can see Oscar nominations for both of them. I just think they're very powerful, and their performances have so many layers to them. It's not an easy performance. The scene you pointed out in the beginning, with the talking about how you should react to if a police pulls you over. There's another scene that happens on the lawn. These are just images that you are burned into your mind, and maybe to people like us at this panel, unfortunately we don't have any black people on this panel today. Maybe to us these are very shocking, but these are realities, unfortunately, to a lot of black people, and that's very hard to accept and understand. And for us to kind of go out and see movies like this and see that image being shown to us over and over again throughout this year, because this year has done that over and over again, I think that's very important, and change is now. We need to make these changes now. I really love this movie, and I'm so glad that we as a collective group voted for it. It opens in limited release this Friday, and then we'll be going to a wider release in the next couple of weeks. So, with that being said, we're going to go switch over gears to another woman who has been doing a lot to ignite social change on the internet.
Although I'm very excited to see The Hate You Give now, I have to say. You guys have made me, I want to rush over there today and see it.
Yeah.
So.
Good.
You should totally check it out.
Yeah.
They're doing something. I should also point this out real quick, that Fox is doing a free screenings to underprivileged neighborhoods, showing the film, which I think is very important. I know like studios were doing it for like movies like Black Panther, which again, I understand it's important for the culture to be out, but there's a different type of movie there versus here.
Mm-hmm.
This is very important for people to see, and I think it should be a required viewing.
It sounds
in
like
schools.
more like an indie film, right?
Yeah.
Is it? Or,
It is.
a little bit.
Yeah. Definitely has that feel to it, yeah.
That's great. I mean,
But it's a great cast, like we said. Issa Rae's in it
Yeah.
as well, and Common. Just a lot of great actors, that kind of pop up in it.
Common's all over the place now.
Oh,
is.
And
Common's
the
all over.
tail, and yeah.
He's a good-looking individual.
He's a handsome, he's a tall drink of water, yeah.
Oh my gosh! If you've ever met him in person, his eyes are like, wow. Anyway.
And he's nice.
Yes,
It's
very.
very uncomfortable.
Sorry.
How you feeling, Scott?
I don't have
I can't eat
Little
once.
outnumbered here.
Right.
It's okay,
Welcome
it's
to our
okay, it's
normal
okay,
world.
it's
We
okay.
can watch social relevancy and eye candy at the same time.
There you go. Yeah,
But we can.
Yes.
Double standard.
That's okay. That's okay. So Miranda, I wanted to bring you here because you speak from the heart. You are a amazing woman. You and I met at South by Southwest. We had a nice 30-minute long interview about your film, You Can Choose Your Family. We got to like obsess over film a little bit there, but I think we both believe in the same things in terms of diversity in cinema and criticism. And I really wanted to bring you on for our first guest. You're our first guest on the show to talk a little bit about your vision and what you hope to do this month and in the future.
Sure. I obviously, like, I'm a filmmaker. I'm a producer and an actress and a director and a writer, and I never really foresaw myself ever getting into the tech industry. But last August, pre Harvey Weinstein and stuff, I released a film that I had produced with Lake Bell, and I kind of noticed it was, it's not a Moonlight type of movie, but it was never meant to be. It was, it was exactly what the director wanted, and my job as a producer is to support that vision. And I noticed the difference between the way female critics and male critics talked about that film. Not just whether or not they liked it, but the way they talked about it. Mm-hmm. And I felt that there was a real kind of problem there when I read those reviews. And then I also noticed the same thing kind of happened with The Zookeeper's Wife. And women, within the industry and critics really liked it, and men didn't really like it, and it never really got its day or its platform. And my friends that I would, that were outside the industry for both of those movies that were women, that I would say, oh, you should see this, they loved those movies. But they didn't get an opportunity to see them because they didn't perform well in the box office, and they didn't perform well in the box office because not enough people went, and not enough people went because it had a, low score on Rotten Tomatoes. So then I looked into Rotten Tomatoes a little bit and found out that at that time, which was, a year ago, that in the top critics, it was like a little over 78% of them were men. And I just felt as a woman that the voices that I wanted to hear were kind of aggregated down to zero. We were just kind of like, if there's, one woman and one man, they kind of cancel each other out. And then at the end, you're left with this, stack of voices saying, this is what's worth your money. And I think that what's worth my money as a woman isn't necessarily the same thing that's worth other people's money as a woman or a man or a person of color or a Caucasian. I think we all have different voices and different ideas of what we consider media that we want to spend our time and our money on. And I feel like at that time, Rotten Tomatoes wasn't really giving that enough attention. And so I called the only person I know who knows about websites and whatnot. Her name's Rebecca Odes, and she's my best friend's sister. and she had started one of the very first websites ever for women called girl.com. And her and her husband had been in, had sold some web stuff and sites, and she had written a bunch of books for women. And I asked her if she wanted to do it with me, because if she didn't, I wasn't going to have any idea how to even begin. And she said yes, and we started. And we started like right after Toronto last year is when I decided like I have to do it, because when I was in Toronto, I noticed that there were not very many women at the events that I was at that were critical events. And actually, just yesterday or 2 days ago, I was at an event for an important, online magazine, and there was only one female writer there, and she was of color, which is great, but like there was only one, and it just really showed me that I'm really glad I'm doing what I'm doing. We at thecherrypicks.com are not going to have our own reviews. We are not saying that we are the voice of women. What we're doing is collecting female critical voices, like aggregating, similar to what Rotten Tomatoes is, across film first, then television, then music, video games, eventually VR. We want to be able to, if you're a girl or a woman and you want to be able to go in and see what do my fellow women think about this video game or this movie, you'll kind of be able to have your own score, and you'll be able to read the reviews of the people that are a little bit that are women. But we're pulling from everything, Star Wars to The Hate You Give to, it doesn't really matter. It's just like, if you're out there, if you're a female critic that's been published somewhere, we'll pull the review in and put it there. But then we also have our own content. We want to be an online magazine, a place where you can go, where women are writing about, what's in media right now. Mm-hmm. They're talking about, Lady Gaga's new album, or they're talking about, what's so-and-so's most embarrassing moment in their career. Fun, shareable stuff that we want to hear about.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can I clap for you?
Yeah, sure. I'm excited. I mean, it's really hard. I have to say, building a website is like a lot like remodeling a kitchen. Yeah. It costs way more. It takes way more time than you think.
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is just remarkable, for the sense that this is a long time coming, for lack of better terms. When me, Scott Menzel, and Ashley Menzel, and Chris Lee Kennedy came up with this idea for our organization, one of the things, I was the founder of this organization, and then I met with everyone and we kind of had a lot of conversations. But one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to be about equality. I wanted to be about all these different voices, whether that's female, gay, straight, whatever, and people of color. And I wanted to be like an even playing field. I didn't want it to be something where it was always the white guy show. And a lot of kickback happened because of that. It was something that people were like, you're crazy, you're not going to be able to do this. And I still get that to this day. But, I want to use, my white male privilege to kind of help others, and I think it's very, very important to reach out and hear other voices and hear different sides of a story, because like you, I read a lot of reviews, I read a lot of opinions, and I like hearing different sides. I like people who don't agree with me or see things through a different lens. And it's so important what you're doing and highlighting those voices. And I do applaud you very much.
Thanks. So thanks. Let's look at it up first before it launches at the end of the month. But I think at the end of the day, and this is really great that you're doing it, or we're all doing it, like we have to kind of just follow our dream and have fun. You know what I mean? And, I'm not, I think that what I'm doing is definitely important and what's happening is important. But, also I think it's going to be a really fun site for people to go to and like meet the voices of other like-minded women. And, eventually you'll be able to like buy your tickets for the movies through there because you read Manola Dargis's, article that you like, or, you'll be able to follow specific critical voices like Carla's, and, and kind of be able to have your own basket, shall we say, of critics that you that you resonate with, because there's lots of critics that I don't resonate with, and then there's a lot that I do, and some are women and some are men, and there's some that are color and some that are not, and I want to be able to be able to look at all of them, although Cherry Picks will not be aggregating male voices because it is specifically for female voices to get out there, but men can read it.
So I have a question for you. I mean, you are someone who's in the industry. You like you said, you've directed, you've wrote, you've produced. What sort of kickbacks have you, like, not kickbacks, but what struggles have you found along the way of trying to bring this vision to life?
You mean socially?
Yeah.
Struggles as opposed to like financial or
technical? I already know how hard it is to do websites and get those funded.
I mean, listen, everything, like if you're in the movie business, period, like people have opinions, and that's just like if I was too concerned about what other people thought about what I was doing, I would definitely not be making movies. Because that you're opening yourself up. So it's like, I understand I'm opening myself up for something. I mean, people have said or have looked at it and said, like, well, if it's just sexist if it's all women. But, there's like themancave.com. Right. Okay. There's like, there's so many sites out there for men, there's products out there for men, there's products out there for women, there's websites out there for women. The TV show Girls. I don't know, it's like, I kind of look at it like this. I kind of look at it like it's a matter of like what you're looking for. And there's Marie Claire magazine and there's GQ magazine. And if they're next to each other, I'm going to pick up Marie Claire. That's the thing that most resonates with me. I really like it. I want to read about the fashion. I want to read about the movies and the articles that they write. I'm not interested in the GQ because I'm not the demographic.
Right.
So all I'm doing is making something that doesn't exist right now, which is a media magazine online for women about women.
Right.
And there's nothing sexist about that. I'm not making a golf club that I'm only allowing women into.
Well, it's
keep in mind, like, what is our history of women? Like, we just got the right to vote, okay?
Right.
Like, we weren't even allowed to have a credit card without having our husbands co-sign on it or get our own apartment. And people forget that, and for us to be able to say, hey, I want to have my own website with our own voices that are women that I can read, I don't think there's anything sexist about that.
No. And I think the conversation right now, couldn't come at a better time too, because clearly, like with the Meryl Streep and Jessica Chastain and Brie Larson, they're all speaking out about this issue and how it's been a problem for a while. I mean, granted, there's been some great female critics throughout the years. Why am I blanking on the one from New York Times? Pauline Kael. Yeah. I mean, she was.
I remember Carrie Rickey from Philly.
She was like, but Pauline Kael was, like she was like one of the originals, and she, again, I'm sure she had, to struggle and fight and claw to get her where she was.
Well, it's interesting, actually. Like, if you look at the history, and I'm totally new to this, okay, so I could be screwing up, but the history was actually like in the beginning of journalism, women were not getting, the good journalism jobs, and they thought that like, go review a film or a little, art show or whatnot, or theater, because that was like the little tiny job they could give people. Okay, let's let the women go do that. But then it became a successful kind of readership. And then that's when like the papers started being like, oh, well, we need to have our famous guy reporter do it. And women were kind of slowly edged out of that. And these are Caucasian women. I mean, there was not very many places for diversity when it came to any journalistic job. And luckily, like, we're changing and everything is changing. But like what you're doing, I think, is really great with LAOFCS, which is you are doing something that Rotten Tomatoes essentially should have done from the beginning, which is, and I know you're not doing like a scoring system or anything, but which is make sure that you have the collective voices of everything. So luckily, there is a platform for that.
And luckily we live in Los Angeles where there is, more of that diversity.
So there's that, and there's room there for everybody and all of us, just like, what Carla's doing, or Black Tomatoes. I mean, I think that's, I don't consider that racist. I think that's a very important TV show and element, and for a specific, viewership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, she asked me to do that, and I was completely honored that she asked me to go on board with her
Yeah.
and do that because I'm not going to say what I was going to say about that because there was a certain element that had to be there in order to get that show made. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay. And rewind.
But yeah,
And we're
that's the thing. What I love about this organization, and I, I wanted to do this show and I wanted to host it and things of that nature, is that I'm always been someone who is not about being center of attention. I'm someone who likes to surround themselves with good people, with voices that I believe in, with people who I can view as my friends, and this organization for me has opened so many like avenues for me to like, we just did a show with Nestor previous today where like I never knew Nestor that well. I saw him at junkets and I got him in this group and he's become a really good friend, someone who always gives suggestions. And
He's from Uruguay.
Yeah.
He's got a great voice.
And
yeah.
I mean, Staci, I just brought her on board to We Live Entertainment to be the horror gal because she loves horror movies and she doesn't have an outlet right now. And I want to expand and have more voices. And this is my first time meeting Morgan, but I'm hoping to meet more. Yes. Kit and I go a long time back. She and I text
long time,
a lot.
which is like a year.
Yeah.
This feels like more like 10.
I know it does. Like we shared so much. But the bottom line is that I never wanted this organization to feel flashy or showy. It was just something that I grew up with. Like I was raised by my mom. I grew up in a mixed race household. I grew up in New Jersey in a very middle class area where there was Indian kids and everything, and I just associated like that. So it's very weird for me to kind of come out here and hear all this talk about like diversity and like female empowerment, because in my eyes that's what I saw my entire life. But now pulling back the layers and seeing how much of a freaking problem it is, I'm like, okay, I'm glad I did this, but it was like never my intention to do it like as the way that everything's going now. It was just a natural intention, like this is the way I wanted it because this is the way I was brought up.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, I grew up in Vail, Colorado, and I was one of 2 girls in my graduating class. We only had 10 of us at the time, and so it's 8 boys to 2 girls. So like for me, being in Hollywood and being the only woman in the room was very natural. Yeah. I didn't have a problem with it. Because I grew up that way.
Right.
But, I think right now and what's going on just in the political landscape and the way that the world is like now much more open with social media and news and everything, we are able to see things we weren't able to see before, and now we have to choose things intentionally, and I think we're all on a learning curve of what is appropriate and what is inappropriate, and I think we're all afraid of screwing up and sticking our foot in our mouth. I know I do that on a daily basis, and I think all any of us can really do, especially in the jobs that we're doing with creating content for films or for podcasts or whatever, or writing reviews. Like all we can all do is just like try and just learn and be aware. And try and, even if you don't like something, like try and put some sort of positivity out there, because there's so much negative energy swirling around and so much divisiveness right now that I think it's better to like lift everybody up if we can.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've probably gotten this question before, but, as speaking for my daughter who does want to enter into this and, and make a difference. So, I mean, what kind of advice would you give her to sort of make her voice heard or try to do what she wants to do?
Well, I mean, it's the advice I would give anyone. I don't think it's easy. I don't think making movies is an easy job to get into, right. No matter what sex, age, or color you are. Right. It is very, very hard. I honestly, it's perseverance. I mean, I just wanted to stick around long enough so that I was still there, and they're like, oh yeah, what about that girl?
Right.
Because it's like, if you give up, then you never really know if you could have made it or not. And so like, if I'm like 70 or 80 and I haven't, hit where I wanted to be, then, it didn't happen.
Right.
But you'll never know, you know what I mean? And I think you just have to keep doing stuff as long as it makes you happy, and as long as you understand that there's a lot of hard work.
Right.
And that there is no such thing as overnight success at all. And there is no such thing as being happy all the time. And there's no such thing as working with people who are not assholes, because you will always have an asshole on every single movie set, or you might even be the asshole on that movie set. And, you know, it's about kind of, you know, getting through that.
Yeah.
But I think grade school kind of prepped us for that.
Yeah.
So here we are.
And like I said, the landscape's totally changed because, you know, like these sites coming up and us and just everyone speaking up and, you know, making their voice heard is positive for the younger generations.
Yeah. I mean, either way, you have to be a good storyteller and you have to be talented. And if you are, you will crop out.
rise up,
You'll rise up.
Do you good ladies have anything to add or ask?
Oh gosh. Well, I just kind of to everyone's point here. So I've been writing for 8 years. So I was in my mid to like early 20s when I first started. And so many times I would go to press days and press conferences and I would be mistaken as a publicist. Like people would come up to me and say, "Oh, excuse me, where's so-and-so room?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm going where you are." And I feel like it took so many years to finally be taken seriously as a journalist and a critic. And so seeing sites like yours pop up and just hearing all these stories is really cool. And it's validating that, like, okay, I stuck with this because I knew I wanted to do this. And so far it's turning out great.
That's
so
great.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so many stories, so many female stories.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I started out doing press junkets in the early 2000s, actually, before there were a lot of websites. And I felt more discriminated against being a web journalist than being a female journalist than anything. Yeah, so it's really turned around now. We had to fight for our TV days, you know, and it was hard. And we'd get put at the very back of the press line on the red carpet. And,
Always.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember I did interview Lake Bell on camera for a movie that she did, a ghost movie, I think, a long time ago. Yeah, with Jason Biggs, and yeah, she was really terrific to talk to.
she's fun.
So yeah,
She's the best.
yeah. What was the film that you did with her?
It was called I Do Until I Don't.
Oh, okay. I'll be sure and
Yeah,
check
she
that out.
wrote and directed it and stars in it. It's
Super
really
talented.
cute. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
really.
on Netflix and everything
right.
now. It's great.
I saw that one. It really did go nowhere. It's like they did, like I don't remember like did it even get a limited release? They sent
No,
me
we
a
did.
screener.
It went out on it had the kind of like roadside release. It wasn't roadside, but it kind of hit like 2,000 theaters kind of all at once. I mean, I think that we knew it wasn't going to be a critical darling or anything, but we knew it was going to kind of hit a certain place. But
Was there? Do you have any new news about your movie?
Yeah, tell us about him.
Yeah.
my movie,
Yeah.
so I made a movie called You Can Choose Your Family with Jim Gaffigan, who's a blast to work with. I
Oh,
have to
he's
say.
awesome.
Yeah, he's really great. And there's all these wonderful other actors in it: Logan Miller and Samantha Mathis, Anna Gunn, Alex Karpovsky. So it was, needless to say, we all had a lot of laughs on set. So it's been playing the festival circuits. It just played LA Film Festival. It premiered at South by Southwest. It's going to Napa and Philly and all these places. And I've been using the festival circuit as kind of like a workshop, so that I've been able to like listen to the audiences and see, from the reviews what's working, what's not working. And then I've actually gone back into the movie. And the movie that will get released in June on Father's Day, it will have a different title. And it will be shorter. It will be, hopefully, shorter. Just addressing some of the concerns that people had, socially. Like I said, there was it's about a guy whose 17-year-old son finds out he has two families in the 90s, and his son blackmails him and then kind of becomes his partner in said infidelities. So he's not. But it's a comedy. So he, the father is not a likable. He is a likable character, but he's not doing likable things. And I got my friend Oren Moverman, who's a really great filmmaker. I had him take a look at the movie, and I said, "Well, what do you think?" I'm going back in, and this is what the Hollywood Reporter says, and this is what We Live Entertainment says, and what do you think? And he's like, Miranda, I really like it. It's really funny, whatever. He's like, but we're in a place today where people don't want to forgive. And you forgive this guy at the end. And I know that this is about you forgiving your father. That's obvious to me. But people don't want him forgiven so easily. So I think you need to take that into consideration. And so I've changed the ending now. not that he's not still the center of the movie, but it's a little more open-ended in terms of his
great.
forgiveness.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's a lot of fun, I have to say. It's a really fun movie to watch. It's a fun movie, and that's also kind of what I wanted. Like, I'm not trying to change the world with this movie, and it is a mostly Caucasian movie. I have Michelle Hurd in it, and I have another kid in it that is African American, and then there's like a gay kind of side story that's there. But like at the end of the day, I definitely wanted to deal with my daddy issues and have people laugh.
Well, that's
So
good.
so that was my
So
intention.
now I have to see it again?
Yeah.
Not
You
like
can see it again.
Not like there's any
I
problem
think
with it because I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was like, no, because I want to keep Ashley's review just the way it is. No, yeah. I mean, yes, of course, you should see it again.
You don't know what the title is going to be yet, though?
I do. It's called Being Frank. Double entendre.
Intriguing.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
I did. I love that movie. I talked to you about it. It felt like a good throwback to John Candy movies, where it's very character driven. You don't always know what you want to make of the guy. I don't know how I feel about changing the ending. I'll be honest. I might be on the other end of the spectrum, but
I think you're gonna like it still.
Yeah.
It still gives you what you need. It still it has the great thing about being able to like workshop this and really look into all of the different possibilities is that there's scenes in the movie that you've never seen.
Okay.
Now. And it still has the exact same ending. It's just tonally different.
Oh.
And there's like a couple scenes in there that weren't there before that just add a little more a little more closure with his one of his wives.
Cool.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. Well, Miranda, thank you so much for coming
Thank you
on.
for
I know
having
you have to run, but thank you so much for being part of this, and thank you for all you do. And I know at this table we will all continue to support you.
Thank you.
So-
And we sign up for the newsletter
sign up
that we have,
absolutely,
which
yeah.
is at thecherrypicks.com. And we do a bi-monthly newsletter right now. And then once we launch, we will have a weekly newsletter.
Yay.
So, but thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Miranda.
you.
Take care.
Thank you so much. All right, so
much
if you would
time do
like,
we have
so we got about 15 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
So we can go run through our indie spotlight picks. Morgan,
But I want to just say,
sure.
Stars Born. Did you guys,
We want to talk about
see
Stars
it?
Born.
Okay. Just quickly, because
Sure.
even though we didn't pick it for movie of the week, but I thought it was pretty amazing. I mean, I've been my respect for Lady Gaga keeps growing. I mean, she I was never a big giant fan of her music when she first started out, and she was kind of kooky and whatnot. And I knew she had a good voice, but when she started doing, changing it up and started, reinventing herself, like doing the duets with Tony Bennett, and then you could really hear her voice, and that kind of, I went, oh, all right, okay, she's quite talented. Then she did American Horror Story Hotel, and I went, and I thought she was fantastic in that. And I go, okay, well, I had heard that she had studied to be an actress first before the music came aboard. So when this was announced, and I know it went through all kinds of different iterations.
Oh, yeah.
Beyonce was supposed to do it. But when it was finally announced that Bradley Cooper was doing it, I was like, I was a little apprehensive about it because it's his first feature directing. But I was just blown away by the performances. I mean, the story, of course, is the same. It's not like it's, changing the world with the story and you know what happens since it's been done so many times. But the two of them are just electrifying together. And, that's half of the battle right there. Probably more than half the battle. But yeah, I was really, really moved by it. I mean, I didn't sob like people have been sobbing. I'm not a big sad crying person, but I was certainly moved by it. And I just thought both of them should, possibly get Oscar nominations from that. So I just wanted to say that.
You guys want to chime in?
I didn't see it, but I can talk about the 1976 version.
Yes, that's a great one too.
You didn't see it?
No, I was supposed to see it, but my car broke down on the way to the I know. In fact,
okay.
yeah, my car has been
I loved it. Like I'm a big musical fan
So
anyway.
is he.
So
Yes,
I
I
just
love that.
I
I am
loved
not.
this movie, and seeing her in the earlier scenes too, when
Yes.
she didn't have the makeup and she wasn't dolled up. Like, I just was blown away that was Lady Gaga.
Yeah,
And,
she was
yeah,
so earthy
talented.
and yeah. The first half of the movie I think I liked a little bit better than the second half.
That
of the
seems to
movie.
be the
Yeah.
general vibe everyone's saying.
But just only because, like I said, we kind of know the story and we know how it's going to end up. But Bradley Cooper was where his performance kind of sort of was heightened as well, as when he was in the downslope.
Now that's really him singing, right?
I think so. Yeah,
I think I read
I
that.
think they
I was
sang
like,
live.
Yeah.
Too.
Wow.
So I'm predicting right now that Lady Gaga will win an Oscar, probably for best song.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
But I feel bad for anyone who is competing with this movie for music this year.
Yeah.
Like I know Disney usually has it on lockdown, and I know there's a great song in Hate You Give and everything else, but I'm sorry. Like, I think this movie has it on lock.
Yeah. Shallow. I sing it in my car. Like,
Yeah.
it's good.
It's really good. And we won't talk about Venom.
No, we will not talk about Venom.
Actually, I might talk about Venom in my retro rewind. I'll talk a little bit about it.
Okay. So we do the indie spotlight, which we're going to kind of everyone's just going to share. We usually do a little bit of a round table, but because Miranda was here, we wanted to give her most of the screen time this week. What is your pick, Morgan? We'll start with you.
Yeah, so I picked a documentary that came out last year called Faces, Places, and I love this movie. I love Agnes Varda. I think she's the coolest 90-year-old woman ever. And basically the documentary is directed by her and this guy named JR, who is a French artist who's kind of like a Banksy. He wears sunglasses and a hat, and no one knows his real identity. And basically the two team up together and just go around the French countryside, meeting people, taking their picture, and plastering their picture over abandoned buildings or just different places outside in nature. And the point of the documentary is just to prove, like, oh, you can meet people and people are nice and the world is a big place. And it was a very uplifting movie.
Aww.
It's available to stream on Netflix, and I highly, highly recommend it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Stacey.
My indie spotlight pick is Suspiria, which is not, I don't think it's released yet, but it is a remake of the 1977 Dario Argento Giallo film. And it stars, the new one stars Tilda Swinton in 3 different roles. And yeah,
Well, she's good at that kind of
she
stuff.
can do that. Yeah, I know. She plays an old man, a witch, and a headmistress at a ballet school. But the director of the film, I know he took a lot of flack for accepting the job in the first place because the original is so beloved by horror fans. And it's so incredibly beautiful with its Art Deco sort of accoutrement, and it's very stylish, a lot of style over substance.
Right.
So the director of the new Suspiria wanted to reinterpret Dario Argento's story as if it was directed by Rainier Werner Fassbinder. And he did accomplish that. I don't know if it's a good thing, but he did accomplish that. I'm a fan of the original. So if they had not called it Suspiria and they just said it's a companion piece, I would have liked it a lot better. Also, there was a subplot cobbled into the main story, which I think really took away from the horror and suspense of it. But I did like the film. I'd like to see it again to absorb it, just now knowing what I can expect, because when I went into it, of course, it was blind. So
Right.
I want to just point out something real quick about this movie. So I've talked to a lot of people who've seen it. It seems almost polarizing, kind of going off what Miranda said, of the males who I've talked to who've seen this movie love it. Eric Eisenberg, Jimmy, love it. Mm-hmm. You're kind of like on the fence about it. Jana is kind of on the fence about it. A few other people I've talked to seem to be on the fence about it as female. So it's very weird because this is kind of like the opposite of what she was talking about. And I don't remember the original all that much. I've probably seen it once a long time ago. But I heard a lot of things like you were saying where it's just not it. This is not the movie that I was expecting.
also, in my review, I had said that I think that the lead actress, Dakota Johnson, she should have been relegated to the second fiddle role, and I think Mia Goth should have been the lead because she's just so much more compelling and just has a better screen presence and more I would rather follow her. So I think that is also sort of a little misfire. But, he did certainly, the director accomplished what he set out to do. So you got to give him kudos for that.
Yeah. So mine is The Wife, which I guess comes out on Blu-ray this week or soon or something
Very
like that.
soon. I
Very
mean,
soon.
this is going to be a big push for Oscar season.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
Glenn
gonna- I'm
Close.
sure they'll probably re-release it because they might do it like
Did not do well.
a week re-release. Anyway, Glenn Close and Jonathan Pryce are the stars, and Glenn Close plays a woman who's married to a famous novelist who is now winning the Nobel Peace Prize for literature, and you come to find out that she's actually the one who's written all the stories, and he was the face of it. He would come up with the story idea, and she would actually write it. So that fits right into what we're talking about, I think, as far as that kind of genre or that theme. Glenn Close is fairly amazing in it. I mean, it's kind of a slow build. It's a slow burn. There's not a whole lot that goes on. There's definitely she does finally sort of, because at first she's just so demure, and she's very supportive of her husband, and you see these little glimpses of what's happened. You go flashback. Her daughter's actually playing her in the flashbacks. Her real life daughter, Glenn Close's real life daughter, and so you see how it came about. She was in the 1950s. She couldn't get no one would read her things because she was a woman, and it was just all of that kind of stuff. But yes, Glenn Close. I don't know. I'm not sure if she'll get an Oscar nomination at this point because there seems to be a lot of contenders coming up. You know how that works. But she definitely, this is one of the best things she's done in a long time. And Jonathan Pryce is also quite good, and I've always loved him. But yeah, it's worth checking out because it does kind of make you a little mad, but at the same time, it's really a character study between these two people and their marriage and what they sacrificed and what she sacrificed and that kind of thing. So they play really well off each other.
Do you remember if it was a female screenwriter or director? Were there any behind the scenes?
Yeah, it was written by a woman, Jane
great.
Anderson.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I didn't speak
And
with
it's
her.
based on a novel,
I
too.
spoke with the daughter. What's her name now? I can't remember her name. I did actually get a chance to speak with her daughter. It's not on there, is it?
No, it's not.
Annie Stark. That's it. Annie Stark is her name. Who looks just like her mom. But yeah, she was just talking about, because she plays this woman in the 50s and just kind of, immersing herself into that sort of world as a woman.
Like the Big Eyes story, right?
Yes.
With the artist who's
And Colette is another movie coming out with Keira Knightley, but that takes place at the turn of the century, so it's the same, but it's the same thing.
Oh yeah, those stories are always so interesting when they come to light.
Yeah, for sure. This is not based on a true story, but I think Colette is. But
It is.
But still, it's the same kind of idea, being oppressed, but then being able to still get it. For her, it was. She didn't feel like she was because she was still producing this. She was still writing and she was, being creative, which is what she lived for. It was only at the end when all of this acclaim was coming for her husband that it started to bubble up, and she got. Hey, wait a minute.
My pick, real quick. This was such a great episode. I wish we had a little bit more time, but we probably won't get to the other two things today. But we'll have you guys back on, and we'll do a longer episode next time. I want to just point out real quick. There's a little movie that's out right now. It's from the Orchard. It's called All About Nina. And it is with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who is an actress who I have really enjoyed her work since she started out. Anthony, our sound booth guy, pointed out that she was in Sky High, which I totally forgot she was in that.
That's right. That was kind of fun.
Final Destination. But her later work, I think, is where she's really started to shine. There's a very underrated movie called Smashed, where she plays an alcoholic, and I think she's just incredible in that film. All About Nina is based on a seemingly true story. They don't really say that if it is or not, but it seems very realistic. And she plays a stand-up comedian. And it basically shows her struggles as a female comedian and how she's never taken seriously because all men want to do is Google her, like goggle all over her and like
Google all over her.
Google, yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? Goggle, sorry. Goggle,
not the G.
Ogle all over her. And just, come up after her shows and just say really sexual things to her. And what I was so surprised about this film is how deep and dark it got. There's a scene near the end of the film during a stand-up routine where she just loses it. And this scene is incredible. If the competition wasn't so fierce already this year, I would say that she would have a shot at being an Academy Award nominated actress, but I'm just not sure because it's a smaller studio. There's not enough push for it, but she could be. And it was an incredible scene. Common's in this movie, probably the weakest link of the film for me. I do like Common, but I feel Common plays Common in a lot of movies, and he's not very good at becoming characters. It just kind of seems like himself. But if you're going to see this movie, it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead all the way. So we have to wrap it up for this episode. Just want to go around the table once again. We'll start over at Staci. Just name, where they can find you, and all that good stuff.
All right. Staci Layne-Wilson at home in Hollywood, and now We Live Entertainment as the horror guru gal. And on Twitter at Staci Wilson.
Okay, Morgan Rojas with Cinemacy, and you can find Cinemacy at Cinemacy on Instagram, and I believe it's at Cinemacy Speaks on Twitter. And if you want to look me up for my personal Instagram, it's at Morgan Rojas.
And I'm Kit Bowen. I'm also with Screen Pics, and my Twitter's The Movie Kit. And on Instagram, I'm Kitchona.
There's a change to the movie.
There's a long story behind that. So it's a funny story though, so I'll tell you sometime.
We'll dedicate a part of the episode next time.
Why am I called Kitchona?
Yeah. Scott Menzel, We Live Entertainment, and I do Black Tomatoes on Black Hollywood Live, 5 p.m. I do this show, and then I do Meet the Movie Press Fridays at 9 a.m. on Popcorn Talk Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back next week, same time, and keep watching movies and keep loving one another. Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.